everybody, and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. It is Wednesday, March 9th. That was so boring. It doesn't matter what the date is.
This is why I do the intros, people, because I'm much better at it.
We're going to keep it. Hi, Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Sarah, and I'm joined by my trusty co-host.
I'm Allie, and I'm ready. Like, she's got a gleam in her eye, so I'm ready for it. Whatever is coming my way, I'm ready.
Allie's here, ready to bring the sass. We got a tweet that I really loved. It said, "Can Allie talk some shit about Arsenal and West Ham on the next show? Time to put those powers to use." Now, to be honest, I don't really know if this means some shit, like some positive shit, or some, like, can you talk some bad stuff about what Arsenal and West Ham?
Based off of the tweet that it was replying to, I think it was really go after these teams and then they will prove you wrong. Mainly based off of Katie Zellum. Good old Katie Zellum.
Thank you. I'm glad we had to come on air for you to explain the tweet to me. I was like, I love this. I'm not sure why, but I love it.
Based on the tirade I went on last week, do I owe Katie Zellum an apology? No. But
for those of you who don't know, Allie first called out Katie Zellum for not playing well, and then she started playing well. And then last week, Allie said that the goal that Katie Zellum scored off of the corner was an accident. And then lo and behold, Katie Zellum scores another goal.
Off of a corner twice.
Off of a corner.
Man United fans, you're welcome. If you get into Champions League this year, buy me a pint when you see me.
And we won't be talking West Ham and Arsenal in this pod, but we will next week, I believe, because we're going to have a couple West Ham games to cover and probably an interesting Arsenal one. So,
well, we'll be covering Arsenal in the news at 10, so trust me, I will have opinions.
Okay, good. Let's get into it.
So we have got an absolute cracker of an episode for you this week. We are going to start off with the only game that mattered this weekend, which was the Conti Cup final between Manchester City and Chelsea. We are then swinging across stateside to talk about the election results for the US soccer president, where Sara is going to educate us all about why it matters. We then take you around the world with the various results across the many leagues. And then finally, we have an exclusive interview with two people who are working for the Houston Dash and have a great opportunity for some of you guys out there. So you're not going to want to miss that. So it was the Conti Cup final on the 5th of March. We got a few opinions on this, so I'm going to start off by saying it was set up to be an absolute corker of a match. It was Manchester City versus Chelsea. First time they've met each other in a final. To be honest, I was let down. Like, the game was a bit of a damp squib. And yes, I said it.
Yes, the damp squib rears its ugly head again. I mean, we're going to start off by disagreeing because I don't think the game was a damp squib. I think it wasn't good for a final, but I still very much enjoyed the second half. I thought the first half was pretty lame. But you've told me, based on reading what I have to say about this, that we have opposing views. So I think let's start off by saying City won this game 3-1 to take home the cup. This game started, Chelsea scored first. I really thought that was kind of going to be it, and Chelsea was going to run away with it. But then City equalized, momentum shifted, and City ended up taking it and, frankly, taking the whole second half. So I want to break it down because I think tactically there's a lot of interesting things to talk about here. The great Emma Hayes didn't really have an answer for some of City's tactics.
I'm going to question here what you mean by tactics. Because that was my biggest... No, honestly, that was my biggest problem.
No, it's a great point.
But that was my biggest problem, was the fact that it felt like they were, and both teams, this is both teams, that it was like, and we're going to run at this end of the pitch now, and we're going to run back to the end. There was like no midfield. There was no like set positioning that kept, Her Royal Highness Hardy always talks about triangles when we're playing. There were no triangles. There was nothing. Like, it was very scrappy. It was very, and five of us are going to go get the ball now, and then we're going to, like, there was no tactics. There was no tactics.
Yeah, okay, so I'll take that fair call out. It felt to me more individualistic than a team win. City figured out that if they ran at Chelsea, it opened up a ton of space that they could then exploit. And that's why it felt really individualistic. That is a tactic. And do I know if Gareth Taylor told them to employ it? No. But that is, I think, how City won. You're right. There were no triangles. There was very little playing together. It was people with pace like Lauren Hemp and Lucy Bronze who can run with the ball, running at pace at Chelsea's midfield, at their back line, and distributing from there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we know these two can put on a great performance. I'm thinking about last time they played each other, which was the 1-0 win for Chelsea. Even though it was only a 1-0 win, it was such a great game. Whereas this time it just, I don't know if they tired, like, because they've had a run of game, but it was just very meh.
I don't have a lot more to say about City. Like, I was pretty still not impressed, even though they did win the title and they did beat Chelsea 3-1. Let's talk about Chelsea because they were missing some key figures, and I think that that's part of what we're seeing. Kirby, Cuthbert, and Leupolz were all three out. Congratulations to Leupolz, who we just found out is pregnant.
Yes, who knew that long COVID had an unexpected symptom? Well played, Emma Hayes. Well played.
She's a genius, not just on the field, but with the media as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Kirby was the one they were truly missing. And also, to be fair, Erin Cuthbert.
I think it's both.
Yeah, like, Leupolz hasn't played for a while, so I'm going to count her out for a little bit. But for me, it's Cuthbert and Kirby because Sam Kerr was missing that link up because she didn't have it. The Chelsea midfield just wasn't working. I know Harder tried her best, but it just wasn't there. The chemistry wasn't quite there. And on that back line, Millie Bright looked lost because she didn't have someone who could sweep for her.
So there's two pieces. Like, first of all, in terms of the Kirby Cuthbert, to me, Chelsea was missing both because when I looked at Chelsea, the first half was great. And then Manchester City scored, lost momentum. And then the second half, really, all of the second half, Chelsea looked tired. They were being beat in transition, which is, referencing what we were just talking about, how it was back and forth. City was running with the ball a lot. And also, they could not keep possession. Like, you look at Erin Cuthbert, she's a key piece in that midfield to keep possession. And then you look at Fran Kirby, and she's exactly that linking piece that you were just mentioning with Sam Kerr. Kerr likes to run. Kirby is the forward, almost the number 10 or the false 9 that every team needs, that will play with her back to the goal, get the ball at her feet, and keep the ball so that her midfield can fill in that space, get up the field, and then they can keep possession. And that is such a big part of possession that Chelsea was just missing.
Did Emma Hayes get her squad wrong, do you think? Did she get her lineup wrong? Did she get her subs wrong?
I don't really. I mean, I didn't think that the subs, Lauren James coming on late, Beth England coming on super late, I really didn't think that they made any impact. Do I think they were wrong? No. I mean, they needed to score, so put on some fresh legs up front. I get it.
But would you have brought them on earlier? Like, you've gone 2-1 down quite quickly. Would you have maybe swapped out Beth England so you can have two up front to maybe give Sam Kerr a little bit of service? Or
yeah, I mean, maybe. And also, I can see that Emma Hayes was like, it's 2-1. We can still get one back. They were still creating opportunities. Despite not having possession, they were still creating opportunities. So do I think this is like a big coaching blunder? No, I don't. I think Emma Hayes said it pretty perfectly. Like, Chelsea had beaten City 10 times before this game. So, it's going to happen. And that's really what it is for me. I didn't think it was a huge coaching blunder. But I do want to talk about the back line that you just brought up. To me, it wasn't even about Millie Bright having. I guess it is really. I'm just realizing now we're maybe about to say the same thing. You're saying Millie Bright didn't have a sweep. I'm saying Millie Bright just didn't have enough pace to keep up with the City front line. Like, she couldn't keep up with Lauren Hemp. She couldn't keep up with who was running at her. And I think more than Millie Bright, the whole back line just didn't have the pace, and that's where City were able to capitalize.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely pace was an issue. I think Berger had a really uncharacteristically off day. Like, her saves weren't as clean. If you look at the City goals, a lot of them came from rebound saves. Ellen White's was, I believe Weir's first one was. They were very, it wasn't a clean game for Berger. So I know she's going to be really angry at herself for that one. But I think they were... Because we've now seen that Millie Bright wants to go up front more, and we are seeing her being played up front more because she can do it.
Which is so fun, by the way. I love seeing Millie Bright up front. I love when like a keeper or a center back gets like released from the holds of defense, and they're like, freedom! And they're just running wild up top. It's just fun to watch.
With Man City winning this, it now means that it's very, very unlikely we are going to get a domestic treble this season, because it's unlikely that Man City are going to come from where they are to win the league. It looks like it's going to be Chelsea or Arsenal.
Well, great transition into what we've got next week, because Chelsea have a short recovery time. They're playing West Ham on Thursday, which will be very interesting. West Ham has been showing well towards the end of the season. It will definitely lead us to discuss the argument that we've left off out of, can West Ham really contend? And then we've got the City-Tottenham matchup. We've got Tottenham at number 4 playing City at number 5. And that'll be honestly, it'll just be telling for both teams. I think it'll be telling for people who are, for some reason, still denying that Tottenham is a top team in this league, even though they've played 15 games and still sit at number 4. And it'll be telling for City.
I think it's because they keep missing key opportunities. So, for example, if they'd beaten us West Ham, in the derby, they could have gone second. This week, if they'd beat Reading, they could have gone second, whereas they didn't. It's been draws in some of the big games. So I think some people are still questioning their legitimacy.
Yeah, which I really don't love, because, I mean, they've got one fewer win than Chelsea. They're sitting 1 point behind Chelsea. It's not like their schedule's been drastically different. For me, it's just like, read the writing on the wall. They're a good team. You hear me, Tottenham fans? I'm on your side.
Which, as an Arsenal fan, is weird.
I'm a soccer fan, when it just comes down to it, soccer is number 1. Do I just come off as like a flimsy, no allegiance American?
Yep.
That's fine. My true allegiance is to the U.S. women's national team, and it will forever stay, and that is where my loyalty lies. In terms of clubs, it's,
And on the flimsiest of transitions, we are going to talk about the US.
I don't think that was flimsy.
Soccer.
Don't be down on yourself for that.
Me? You're the one that made the transition. But we are going to talk about the fact that the election results came out on Saturday. It was a big day Saturday, the 5th. So the election results came out, and the US soccer presidential election between Cindy Parlow Cone and Carlos Cordero.
Yeah. So on Saturday, Cindy Parlow Cone was elected, but you would think that an election between the incumbent, Cindy Parlow Cone, who just settled with the players, who clearly is looking into the future and wants to make positive changes, versus a man who resigned into disgrace after sexist comments that made the Federation itself look bad, you would think it would be a landslide. But Cindy Parlow Cone won with just 52% of the votes.
So we've only mentioned Cindy Parlow Cone and Carlos Cordero. Is that because they were the only candidates for that particular election? And is that normal, or have they wheedled out other candidates?
Yeah, that's a good question, because A, these are the only 2 candidates, and B, it's completely normal. I mean, usually I feel like this is more of a closed doors within U.S. soccer, kind of like bureaucrats doing bureaucratic things and almost deciding within themselves who the next president is going to be even before the election. So part of who votes on the presidency is the Athletes Council. And the Athletes Council, as it sounds, is comprised of former and current players, and they together get votes. So what the Athletes Council has proposed, because let's face it, these 2 candidates alone, it's really not good enough. And the most important piece of this is that this role as presidency is already limited as to who can run because it technically is a volunteer position. So the U.S. soccer president gets paid $0.
But wait. So something that's really as important as soccer president is a volunteer position.
Isn't that absurd? Well, technically the U.S. Soccer Federation is a not-for-profit federation. So they're not even in the business of making money, technically. And so their presidency is a volunteer position to run the entire U.S. Soccer Federation. However, their CEO gets paid $700,000 a year. So I don't really know how to describe that. Yeah, welcome to capitalism and America. It's fantastic. But to that point, really, because of this, what Athletes Council has done has been like, okay, the fact that this job doesn't pay anything automatically limits who can run for it. So what they've done is they've proposed an amendment so that the president gets paid an annual salary of $125,000 plus benefits. And while Cindy Parlow-Cone being elected is really important, and that's great, I think that this is what we specifically need to highlight. This is the way change will happen, and this is the type of movement that we need. Because I'll just read a brief statement from them, from the Athletes Council. They said, quote, "The intention of compensating the president would be to provide a comfortable income, which would allow a broader group of qualified individuals to consider running for the position." So really what this does is take something that has only been feasible for those who have the financial means to do this role in the past and change that and expand it to a pool of candidates that includes a more diverse and frankly qualified group of people.
Yeah, it's a bit like when you get these internships that don't pay, so therefore you just get a lot of rich white boys, and you wonder why that never changes. So right. it would be great if they can, actually have a proper salary.
Absolutely. I mean, and this goes also back to the fact that women's soccer players don't get paid anything. If they were retiring with millions and millions of dollars like other male athletes in this country do, I'm sure one of them would be like, yeah, I'll volunteer for that and actually drive the federation forward, but they don't, and so they can't. So if you pay this role a good salary, one that frankly they're not getting paid to play soccer, I think you're going to arrive on many, many more qualified candidates who will do much better things for U.S. soccer, but it's going to take a while to weed out those bureaucrats.
Is this where we find that Hope Solo becomes the president and her deputy is Carly Lloyd, and then suddenly nothing changes?
For those of you who listen to Hope Solo's podcast, Allie is referencing the part where Hope Solo suggested that Carly Lloyd run for Athletes Council, which ding 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 is what we're just talking about.
So where are we going, Sarah? Where are we taking these people?
Around the world. Hop on our boat, everybody. We're going choo-choo around the world. Was that super lame?
Ladies and gentlemen, and all of us in between, Sarah's got COVID, so therefore she is a little loopy, shall we say.
Don't discredit everything I'm saying. I'm just building on this jingle. Soon it's going to be a full song. Allie, why don't you start us off?
I will. So we're going first off to Scotland. All of the Glaswegian teams won over the weekend, keeping the title race very tight. Glasgow City are currently top of the league as things stand, with a single point in the lead. However, Rangers, their closest rivals, have 2 games in hand, so the league is hotting up.
Over to Mexico. Monterrey currently have a 4-point lead over Tigres, which they can extend this week when they play León. Tigres will have a game in hand as their game against Querétaro has been postponed.
And we now go back to Europe. We go to Germany. We have another tight league at the moment in the Frauen Bundesliga. Both Bayern and Wolfsburg won their respective ties, leaving just 2 points between the two of them. However, as we've seen in the other leagues, second place Wolfsburg have a game in hand, which could change everything.
Finally, over to Spain, where leaders Barcelona increased their point tally with a 6-0 win over Alaves. At this point, the question is not if they will win the league, but what their goal difference will be. Currently sitting at 125. It's a much closer affair between second, third, and fourth, who will claim those all-important Champions League spots.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
Finally, for our last segment, as Allie previewed at the beginning of this episode, we had some Houston Dash data analysts on. And before you turn the podcast off, first of all, data analytics can be sexy, people, okay? We had some great data analysts on named Julian and James. They came on to highlight a program that they're running. So if you are interested in potentially getting into data analytics within the soccer world specifically and using data to inform scouting, to inform teams, to inform tactics, so on and so forth, this is a really fun interview for you. And we have all of the information for you to get in contact with them if this is something you're interested in. We specifically wanted to highlight this because as we speak about with James and Julian, there are very, very few women in data analytics as a whole, and especially also in women's soccer.
This was a really fun interview with these guys. It's really interesting. And also the big thing to take away from this is don't be put off if you are not based in North America, because they have got opportunities around the globe. So firstly, can I say welcome to James and Julian?
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So firstly, just if you guys want to just introduce yourselves briefly and what you exactly do, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, for sure. Jay, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so I'm based in Manchester in England. I started off as like a traditional scout, and then I got into the data sort of things. I've worked with clubs in the Scottish Premier League, men's side. I've worked with teams in the Canadian Premier League. I've worked with teams in the USL Championship, all to do with the data side of things. But I know Julian has a much better CV than I do. So, Julian.
Yeah, so I'm the other director. Together, we're both co-directors for this project that we're on. I basically launched my pro career through data, basically going to places around the world, whether it be the USL Championship, World Cup qualifiers, all these different places, and introducing data and then creating proof of concept and showing them how they can then create long-term sustainable solutions. And then on the side, also furthering just to expand data awareness, how to make data-driven decisions, and how to get more people into doing what I'm doing. So for the past few years now, I've been working with Houston Dash in coordination with a couple other clubs, and we decided, hey, let's pitch the idea of expanding it out rather than it just being one or two personnel. And here we are with our absolutely incredible and crazy project.
Amazing. So you're both co-directors. So can you just explain for everybody what you do with the Houston Dash, how you work with them, and also what this program is that you've launched that we are here to chat about?
Yeah, for sure. So we are their group of data consultants. So we don't officially work for Houston Dash because there's certain rules in the NWSL that they have to abide by. So we are their expert advisors, just a very large group of us. And so together we are a bunch of collaborators. I believe right now we are at 30 data personnel on our team. We have a ton of data scientists. We have traditional coaches. We have set piece analysts and set piece coaches. Performance analysts, you name it, we have a plethora of them. And essentially what we do is we take data that we have available to us through Houston Dash and we crunch the numbers. We figure out what works, what doesn't work. And then of course we verify everything through qualitative analysis, right? It's not enough that we just do quantitative. And we essentially, from the data standpoint, try to figure out what is the optimal solution and the optimal tactics, and how can we get the most performance out of our players. And so we work with our coaching staff, whether it be projects that we come up with or projects that they decide that they would like us to look into. And we get the research done and create a more overall well-rounded environment for Houston Dash.
Amazing. And this program, for everybody that's listening, can you speak a little bit more to that? And it's clear that this data can be used for a variety of things, be it scouting for the actual team to improve their tactics. So where do the opportunities fall in for this program that you're launching?
Yeah, for sure. So we've already launched the program. Like I said, we have about 30 personnel. We have data scientists, data analysts, data visualists, performance analysts, a whole wide variety. But essentially, when we set out and did our practical interviews with everyone, the main requirements are that you are at least Python adept, and it depends on what position you're doing, right? So if you apply as a data scientist, like we expect you know Python pretty well. And then you can just simply fill out the practical interview, so the assignment, and then most importantly explain why it works, right? We don't want just people that are number crunchers. We want people that actually know why these things work. And other than that, we don't really care very much about anything. We have people from almost every time zone, from 5 continents. So we cover like almost every time zone, which is fantastic. And that's really it. We're always looking to add qualified people, and wherever you are, we are trying to get you to the next step. So that means we're going to have guest speakers, and we have a bunch of them lined up to come teach us, do kind of like a lunch and learn thing, and evaluate the personnel on our data team and essentially get them to bigger and better places if that's where they want to be. And really just create a platform for them. So having facilitated networking, giving them access to the data so that way they can create an excellent proof of concept for themselves. So where we look to take this next is when we did our first round of practical interviews, we had about 100 candidates, give or take. And we noticed that none of them were female. And it was the strangest sensation because we essentially, we lowered every barrier to entry possible that we could, and not a single female. So that's our next big thing, is we're trying to actively recruit. So quick plug for our project. If you are a female and you know Python and you know how and why things work in the data side, shoot us a LinkedIn message. And, I'm completely serious about this. Like, please shoot us a message and we'll set up a quick practical interview for you. And assuming you're perfectly qualified, we would love to have you.
Amazing. And if you're a guy who's listening to this too, take advantage, but
Yeah.
also specific shout out for the women.
We don't want to be sexist.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm gonna put Jay on the spot now and be like, because following on from the thing about having no women applicants, do you see that there is a gender gap in data analytics as a whole, even when you're doing something that is women's sport specific?
Huge. I mean, there's a couple of well-known females who are involved in the data side of things, but it's a hugely male-dominated area,
right.
And yeah, we just want to open it up to everybody.
Absolutely, especially within the world of women's soccer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. More women should be involved with women's soccer at every level.
Totally.
Whether it's president of the club or director of football or soccer, every level.
Wonderful.
Sure.
Well, we appreciate you both coming on the podcast and specifically pitching it to try to, I guess, eliminate that gap, or at least make it smaller, if you will. Football, I'll call it, for Jay and Allie, as a game really underutilizes analytics. So how do you see this field growing? And as the field grows, how do you see that helping the sport to grow?
So if you can go read in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, whatever it may be, about how data is the next big thing in soccer. But what they don't tell you is it's really a non-forgiving career path right now. There are not very many job opportunities, relatively speaking, of course. And the pay isn't always the best, and the job security isn't always the best. And when you combine those all together, it's not really a great formula for a full-time career, to make that to pay your bills, to pay your mortgage, and put a roof over your head. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do with this project, is we're trying to gain popularity. We're trying to raise awareness, and just see, like, hey, at Houston Dash, they're doing this incredible thing and they're able to recruit excellent people and get prolific results. We should probably get with the program. Maybe we need to hire a data personnel. And as you've seen in the NWSL over this past season, they've done exactly that. There's more performance analysts, there's more data personnel, there's sports scientists, everything. So really creating a prolific impact, even though it is for our competitors. But
the only way we can make data grow in football is by pushing it out there more, getting making it known that it does work, that it can improve clubs, it can improve your performance. Because we have a lot of, and the issue is at the minute, old school traditional coaches who are on the field rather than looking at what can be done in the background to assist with that. And you get a lot of coaches that think that we're coming in to tell them how to run their team, and it's completely the opposite. We're trying to assist them, and the more we can push that out to a wider audience, the more the data personnel will be hired, the higher the wages will become, and the more that it will be taking commonplace in football, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for anybody who's listening who is interested, even if you're not sure, if you are interested in getting involved in data analytics within the world of soccer, even, it doesn't even have to be women's soccer, because this really is about building and understanding, well, really building your base of data analytics within the world of soccer. If I'm not wrong, get in contact with Julian and Jay. Will one of you please tell everybody who's listening how they can do that? How can they find you? How can they get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. We're both very active. Just shoot us a quick message. Just say, who you are and that you're interested. And don't just send out a message to us if you're only truly very confident in your capabilities at this current moment. Because we have people where their capabilities aren't to that practical interview level, but we're happy to help, kind of guide you along the way to get you to that level, right? So if you're not the best at Python, that's fine. Still shoot us a message. We will help provide you with resources that can help improve your skills, and guide you along the way to get you to that level. Like I said, LinkedIn message is the best way to get a hold of us. Jay is in Manchester, so there's those time zones, and then I have the American time zones, and so we should be able to get back to you in a very timely manner.
Amazing.
With that being said, just want to put in a quick plug for our Houston Dash coaching staff. They're fantastic people, and really love that they're data driven and at least data minded, and really can't say enough great things about them.
Love that. Thank you both so much. And thank you for the work that you're doing to grow this game, to change the view or stigma, if you will, even of data analytics behind the world of women's, not just women's, behind the world of football. And thank you both for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. It's our pleasure. Thank you.
And that's all, folks. That is another action-packed, filled episode from the Women's Soccer Show. Make sure you check out our Patreon. There's some new stuff going up on there, so check out the new stuff that we've got going on. We're going to have News in 10. We're going to get some interviews. We're looking to get some specific Challenge Cup stuff going on. So,
oh yeah, we'll have an NWSL Challenge Cup preview going up next week. We'll also have part of that in the main episode, but lots of content just on our Patreon. www.patreon.com/TheWoso Show. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Bye.
Good night.